All right, what's going on, you guys? You know what time it is. What's up, fellas? This is Elite Performance with Dr. Brad. And yes, I'm your host, Dr. Brad. This is the show where high-achieving men come to learn how to succeed at work and win in life. And as I just mentioned, I'm your host, Dr. Brad, faith-based performance coach for men. And I help high-achieving men optimize their performance so they can succeed at work without neglecting their personal life and fulfillment. And so for those of you who are hopping on for the first time, this show is what I like to call the perfect combination of both faith-based and peak performance strategies and principles to be able to help you, that high-achieving man who's trying to win in work and life, be able to do three things: to prioritize your faith, to maximize your performance, and to pursue your purpose. I'm excited today because we're going to be talking about purpose and clarity and vision and calling. And so I'm super duper excited. And look, here's what you can expect from me. If you have never watched this, if you have never heard of this and you're here for the first time, here's what you can expect from me and on this show. We're going to pour into you. We're going to pour into you. We're here to serve you. We're here to give you phenomenal curriculum, coaching, and eventually we'll have a community to be able to just give you the tools and the strategies and the belief that you need to be an elite man, a man who succeeds at work, wins in life, and then do those three things we just talked about: prioritize your faith, maximize your performance, and pursue your purpose. But here's what you could do for me, because I don't want this to be a waste of your time. I want you to actually implement the things that we talk about on this show. So we're going to pour into you, but as a thank you for that, I simply want you to go and do it. I want you to start doing the things that we're talking about on this show. This is not for just me to be talking and to be meeting and talking with someone cool on this show. This is for you to actually apply this and change. That's how this works. That is the best thank you. That is the way this show works: is I give, you go do. And then let us know how it works. All right, you guys. So I'm going to let you have this opportunity to like, share, and subscribe. If you're watching this on Facebook, awesome. Make sure you let us know what's going on. Say hi. Chime in, ask questions. We want to answer those questions and engage with you. If you are not subscribed to the Dr. Brad Ballard YouTube channel, make sure you do that right now. Just stop what you're doing, go there right now. You can actually keep watching the show over there as well. And the good thing about that YouTube channel is not only will you get updates on whenever we're on this show and doing this, but you will also get other videos and content that's going to be coming your way to be able to do actionable stuff, practical steps to be able to perform at a high level in both work and life. So make sure you do that. Now, as always, before I bring on another great guest, I want to talk about something. I was blessed this past week, and I want to bless you guys. And so I'll start off by asking this question: how many people feel like their success is going too slow? That would be me. Like, it doesn't matter how hard you're working or what's going on. Even if you're having some success, it's like you just feel like it's going too slow. Has anybody ever felt that way? Or maybe even you're feeling that way right now. You're going after something big. You're going after some sort of specific goal. It could be in your faith. It could be in your relationships. It could be in your business. It doesn't matter, but it feels like success is going way too slow. It's crawling by. If that's the case, listen, I know exactly how you feel. And so I've been blessed to meet a lot of really cool, very successful and grounded people recently. I'm working on a big project that I'll be talking about here over probably in the next few weeks. Again, it's just something to be able to bless you fellas. But as I'm talking to some of these successful individuals, there's a word that continued to come up that they kept talking about, and it's this word service. And it really kind of brought me back to the line. It got me back focused on stop focusing on the success and focus on the service. And one of the gentlemen that I met, phenomenal guy, and quite honestly, he'll probably end up becoming my business coach. He's just a great individual. He recommended a book to me called The Go-Giver. I don't know if any of you ever heard of this book called The Go-Giver, but it is a phenomenal book. Not go-getter, Go-Giver. Very quick read. I read that book over the course of 2 days, couldn't put it down. It really wasn't a matter of putting it down. I was listening to it. So I was listening to it in the gym. I don't normally listen to audiobooks in the gym, but I couldn't stop listening to it. And it was great. And this idea kept replaying in my head over and over and over and over. And it was serve your way to success. Just serve your way to success. Oftentimes we're focusing on the wrong thing. We're focusing on the success and we're not focusing on the service. And the unique thing about service that I came to the conclusion about is because, particularly when you're talking about business, a lot of people say, give value, be of value to someone else. I started thinking, I was like, you know what? Sometimes value is in the eye of the beholder, right? Because if there's something that I really, really want, I might be a billionaire. Money might not be that valuable to me anymore, but like somebody just telling me that they like something that I did, or maybe just a simple smile might be more valuable to me than money. So it's not about necessarily fully just giving something value. It's not that money isn't valuable, but to the person who's receiving it, they may just not see value in it. But here's what's crazy about service. If you say that you're going to serve someone and serve your way to success, think about what happens when you go to a restaurant and you're getting served. The server has to ask you what you want. That means they're interested in what you want. You have to tell them, and they're so intently focused on what you want that they will oftentimes record it, and then they're required to deliver it. So when we serve, think about this. That means it requires you to be interested in people, build relationships, have the focus not be on you, but be on them, to listen and be aware of what they want, and then you deliver what they want in your special way. Mind blown. My mind was blown this week. So don't just give value, because you don't know if that's what they want. It's not that what you're giving isn't valuable. It's just that it may not be valuable for them. However, when you listen and you come from a heart of service and say, I want to serve you, I want to make your life better, then when you do that and you deliver with whatever your gifts and talents are, it may just be a smile at the time. This past week, as I was challenging myself to do that with every touch point that I had with a person, I was thinking, how can I serve you? How can I serve you? Sometimes it was just as simple as me sitting down next to my wife as we were watching church. By the way, yeah, we were watching church. We're in a pandemic. We were watching church. And I was thinking, how can I serve her just best right now? And it was just me sitting, like reaching over and grabbing her hand. Doesn't have to be something massive. But what was crazy was that it blew me away because it made me feel better. But here's the deal. When you think about this and actually have the focus on not a successful marriage, not a successful business, not a successful, not losing the amount of weight or whatever successfully, but if you just focus on the service, the byproduct is success. If you focus on serving the wife, the byproduct is a successful marriage. If you focus on serving your customers, the byproduct is success. So guys, I'm going to challenge each and every one of you. And this is the part I was talking about before. I need you to implement. What up, Chip? I see you, man. Don't think I don't see you out here blessing other people, Chip. Keep moving, man. I appreciate what you're doing. But here's what I want people to do. I want you to think about every touch point that you have just in the next 24 hours. Anytime you have a touch point with someone else, it could be your children, it could be your wife, it could be your boss, it could be your employee, it could be a friend. I want you to think from this perspective. How can I serve you? Specifically, how can I make your life better in this touch point right now? And it will blow your mind and open your mind up into ways that you can do that. And you will probably be more blessed than that person. Serve your way to success. Serve your way to success. It will have you stop looking at the success. So it's like looking at the scale every day. Did I lose the weight? Did I lose the weight? That's why it's not coming fast enough, because we keep looking at it too much. Focus on the service and you'll serve your way to success. All right. I'm done, but that's the challenge. Let me know how it works. I literally want to know how it works. Hit me back. Let me know, DM me, do whatever. Come back on the show next week. Say, Dr. Brad, man, it was phenomenal. But I'm telling you, it's going to blow your mind. All right. It's that time. We bring on my guests. Guys, listen, if you have ever wanted to get clarity on your calling. I remember there was a point in my life where I was just like, man, what is my purpose? I felt like despite the fact that I was a doctor, despite the fact that I was running a home-based business and had some success, I felt like there was something of greater impact and significance that I wanted. If you've ever been in that place where you're just thinking like, man, is this it? Like, I feel like there's something else out there for me. You know what I'm talking about. You have to listen up. Matter of fact, tag somebody right now who you've had that conversation with, like, man, I just feel like there's something else out there for me, because they need to be blessed today by this person who's going to be on today, Mr. Seth Yelorda. He's founder and director of Vision Clarity 360, which is a leadership development and strategic planning consultancy. He has served as vision strategist for both churches and schools by helping them bridge the gap between where they currently are to where they want to be. By the way, you need vision in order to actually get to where you're going. We're going to talk about that today. His expertise lies in helping organizations clarify vision, develop leaders, and transform culture. He also serves as the lead pastor of Relove Church in Garden Grove, California. His life's mission, I love this, is to help leaders discover their kingdom contribution. Let's go. He lives in Riverside, California with his wife, Holly, and 3 daughters, Emily, Amelia, and Elise. Without further ado, my new friend, Mr. Seth Yelorda. What's going on, man?
What's going on? Yo, I'm so glad to be here, brother. Thank you for having me. For sure.
I'm excited to hear about your framework of how you lead people from where they are to where they want to be, and this discovery of purpose, which I think is extraordinarily important. But before we get into that, tell us how you got to where you are now, man, with being the lead pastor, running this Vision Clarity company. Like, what's the story?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I think my life is a lot like everyone else's life. Like, we're just trying to figure this thing out, right? Yep. It wasn't, I wasn't born and on day 2, I had this extreme clarity on who I was and where I was trying to go. I like to call it was just progressive elaboration, right? So we're just trying to every day, it's almost like it becomes a little bit more clear with every experience, everything I go through, my next step becomes a little bit more clear. And so early on, right when I finished like that high school, graduated, I knew that ministry and church were definitely a part of my future journey. Right. And so I went to school for theology and went to study the ministry, got my undergrad, and then I went to the seminary, got my master's, and I started pastoring. And when I started pastoring, I really fell in love with the community. I fell in love with community organizations. I used to volunteer at this at the school district in one of the cities where I've pastored and worked with these. They weren't juveniles. I want to call them juveniles. I know there's a stigma that we place on young kids who got in trouble, but these are just kids who are trying to figure it out. Right. These were kids who were kind of caught in the public school system. They didn't have a strong family, background. And so they got caught up in a few different, criminal activities. And so I would just come in and I would just work with them. I would volunteer with them. I would, give them some best practices and tools and workshops. We would go on trips together. And through working with these kids, I really fell in love with helping people figure out who they are and where they're going. And I recognize that for so many of us, the reason why we are where we are in life, either whether it's financially, whether it's with our marriage, whether it's with professionally, our vocation, is because we've just lacked clarity. Right? We've lacked a clear picture, or the picture that we have had of our lives is one that is leading us somewhere where we ultimately don't want to go. But because that's the only thing we see, that's the only thing we're going after. Like, I'll never forget, I was actually, and I don't know why we did this. This is like a rookie mistake. So we took these kids, there was probably like 20 of us, 20 kids. And they were, like I said, they were probably 15, 16 years old. And we decided, the program director decided to take them to a field trip to the prison. Now, at the time, we thought that was a good idea. But I was like, I don't know why we're taking them to the prison. Hindsight's 2020. So we took them on this field trip to the prison because we were trying to kind of show them like, hey, if you don't get your life right, this is where you're going to end up. I think that was
kind of scared straight, like old school scared straight. Yeah,
exactly. That was the idea behind it. So we took them to the prison. We spent a couple hours there, talked to the different prisoners. The prisoners came out and they were talking about their experience. They're basically painting prison as a place that you don't want to be here. Like, do everything you can to not end up here. As we were driving home from the prison, right, I had 3 kids in my car, and we were driving back to the school district and back to the building. I was just kind of brainstorming with kids like, hey, what'd you think? Tell me your thoughts. Let's talk about it. And one of the young men, something I'll never forget, he said to me, he said, Mr. Seth, I just want to let you know that I know I'm going to prison. I was like, what do you mean you're going to prison? Like, the whole day we've been talking about how you have options and that you don't have to be here. He was like, nah. He's like, I know I'm going to prison. He's like, my daddy's in prison. My uncle's in prison. My granddaddy's in prison. Every man in my family is in. This is literally what he's saying to me. Every man in my family is in prison. I know I'm going to prison. Right. And in that moment, it was almost like I just had this aha, like, if someone can't see something other, if the only thing you can see for yourself is prison, then there's no other alternative. And in that moment, it just really crystallized for me the power of vision, the power of clarity, and the need to give these young men and these young women, these young people in our communities, a clear picture of who they can be. Someone that's successful, someone that's healthy, someone that's thriving, someone that's making a contribution to the community, someone that is adding value to their friends, their family, someone that is living their best life. They don't have a picture of that. And so if they don't have a picture of that, they'll never be able to achieve that. And so that was really the genesis for me on trying to understand, how is it that this young person who we're talking to him over and over and over again about what he can be, but because the only thing he can see is prison, that's the only thing that he thinks is out there for him. How is it that we can help shift and shape his mentality so that he can become something other than what he is currently seeing? And so from there, Dr. Brad, I just started working with individuals. I started working with organizations. My interest and my passion for vision started growing and developing. I went and got my MBA. I went and enrolled in this doctoral program for organizational behavior. I started learning the power of organizational culture, the power of vision planning, and just really trying to help individuals and leaders develop and have a very clear picture on, this is where I see myself going, and these are the steps I need to take to get there and to reach my goal. So that's just like, in a nutshell, kind of where I came from and why now I'm in this position where I really enjoy coming alongside of individuals and helping them figure out where they're going and how they're going to get there.
Man, that's so powerful, man. Dude, I love talking to people who love talking about something, because your whole physiology changed, bro. Like, you getting into it, you in the mic. But I love purpose too, man, because it changed my life. It's interesting because what people don't understand, I think they listen to that story. There may be some people who listen to that story and they like, well, I don't know if I necessarily relate to the kid who didn't have a vision outside of prison, right? Mm-hmm. But let's be real. We as professionals deal with a lack of vision, or a lack, and it's not even a vision, it's a lack of clarity on the purpose, on the calling, right? So just because you might be successful or you might have a vocation doesn't mean that you know what your purpose is. And so as I'm listening to that, one of the things I'm thinking about, man, is I don't even know how to phrase the question. Like, I don't know what's worse. Is it that someone may not be exposed to something so that they don't even know that something is possible to have a vision of because they've never seen it, versus people knowing that there's options, but not even trying to create a vision for what they want? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a little bit of both, but I would probably put more emphasis on the former. I think for a lot of people, we have an internal wiring that by and large determines what we feel we are capable of achieving. You know, it's like this internal glass ceiling within ourselves that once we hit that glass ceiling in our mind, like we can't even imagine anything other than what we are currently experiencing. Right. So you can't imagine like really having a happy, healthy marriage. You can't even imagine having a job where you wake up and you are excited to go to work. You can't imagine being debt free, not having any, you know, student loans, mortgage. You can't even imagine experiencing, you know, great impact with your family and your friends and your community because we have this internal, it's almost like a regulator, right? Yeah. I don't know if you know, like if like go-karts, right?
Yeah.
It's like a go-kart track. Yeah, like they have this regulator which determines how fast you can drive the go-kart, right? And I feel like for many of us, we have an internal regulator which largely determines what we can achieve in life. And so what we have to do as individuals is we have to go into our internal wiring and we have to understand, how did this regulator get installed to begin with? Who set the terms for this regulator? And then how do I bypass the regulator and really just be able to go, you know, full throttle without any limits, right? It's having that internal conversation. Some of it takes therapy, right? The reality is because of our upbringing, because of some of the brokenness that we're coming from, we have this internal regulator. So some of us need to literally get a therapist, no shade, no cap. Like there's nothing wrong with that, right? For some of us, it's coaching. For a lot of us, it's coaching. We need to come along someone who is experiencing where we feel where we want to go, and they can help coach us along, right? For some of us, you know, and I'll use this church term. It's almost like we have to every day. We have to preach the gospel to ourselves.
Oh,
right. Like you have to remind yourself every single day. No, you know, it's almost like I am somebody. We all know that. Like I look in the mirror, I am somebody. Like you have to remind yourself because our default is to live with this control regulator that slows us down and keeps us operating in what we would call like our comfort zone. But in order to really thrive, we have to be able to push the limits, see something greater than what we're currently experiencing, and recognize I can achieve that. I can experience that. That's possible for me too. Yeah. And once we get there, I've seen it. I've experienced it in my own life. I've seen it with people I've worked with, organizations I work with, leaders I work with. Man, the sky literally is the limit. It's powerful for sure.
Man, I'm getting goosebumps over here because you talk about preach the gospel to yourself, man, you know, but that's real talk. I mean, that is real talk. I say affirmations every day, and it's because the input and the stuff that's trying to be downloaded in our mind every single day is so counter to where we want to be that I got to be intentional about putting the right things in my mind to remind myself, yes, you are that person. Like you are that person that you're trying to go and be, despite what the boss, the employees, the friends, Facebook, whatever is trying to tell you. Yep. So I have to do this self gospel preach to myself, and say that same thing over and over and over, because I think repetition is huge to be able to kind of embed that in the brain. I want to talk to that guy who is sitting there like, I feel like there's something else out there for me. I've been there before. That place can feel dark. It can feel lonely. Even when I was doing really well in my practice and running a home-based business, I just felt like there's something else. Like I'm not hitting the mark of like where I'm supposed to be. It's not that I'm ungrateful. It's not that I'm completely unhappy. I was not fulfilled, but I knew there was something else. I want to talk to that guy and try to give him some hope and some tangible things, because I know you have a framework for being able to help people find what that calling and what that purpose is. What do you say to that guy? How do you get him started? What's the process? Yeah,
that's a good question. You know, I like to use the analogy of an individual who's trying to lose weight, right? Before you determine how you're going to lose weight, whether you're going to go swimming, running, biking, you know, weightlifting, CrossFit, Pilates, like yoga. Like before we determine the how, right? Let's just determine the where. Like where are you right now, right? And so what I want that person to do is I want you to step on the scale, right? You step on the scale, and what the scale does, it's the scale is a real point in time picture of your current weight. Right. The scale will not lie to you as long as it's calibrated correctly and is valid. It should not lie to you. Right. And for many of us, we avoid the scale because the scale is a picture of reality. Right. Yeah. I don't know if you ever done this, but you look at yourself in the mirror and you kind of suck in your stomach a little bit. Right. Because you don't want to look as big, your stomach to be as big. You try to flex a little bit. Right. Because you're trying to deceive yourself. Listen, you can suck in your stomach all you want. The scale doesn't care if you're sucking in your stomach. The scale
does the mirror.
Exactly how much you weigh, right? And so you have to step on the scale. You have to place your life on the scale, and really assess. Okay, where am I physically? My physical health. Where am I emotionally? Where am I vocationally? Where am I spiritually? Now, one tool that I like to use with people is what I call this value vitality map. Right. It's a value vitality map, and I don't have I can't share my screen so you all can see it, but a value vitality map is essentially a 2x2, right? And so imagine on the vertical axis, you have vitality, right? And vitality is how much do you enjoy what you do? Right? Do you enjoy it? Does it give you life? Like, are you excited about it? What you're engaging in? And let's just think specifically about the domain of your work, right? Professionally, right? Because obviously there are probably 4, maybe 5 domains of an individual's life. You have, your spiritual life could be a domain. If you're a spiritual person, you have, your family, you have your work, you have your recreation, so there's multiple domains. Let's just think about that one domain. When you think about that one domain, how much vitality, your work domain, how much vitality are you getting from your work, right? So is your work something that you're excited about? Or when you think about work, do you dread it, right? Is it something that you wish, whenever Monday morning comes or Sunday night comes, you start getting a headache because you have to go to work the next day? Right. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that your job will always be enjoyable because, sometimes it's hard work sometimes, right? But by and large, I want to know how much vitality are you getting from your job, right? So on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 10, right? How much vitality, right? 1 would be low. Or let's say 1 to 9, right? 1 would be low, 9 would be high, right? Low vitality, high vitality. So that's kind of like on the vertical axis. And then on the horizontal axis, what I want to know is how much value are you getting from your job? And value is, I'm bringing my best self and making a contribution. And so as a result of my contribution, I am being rewarded monetarily because of my work. Right. So value is purely monetary, right? How much value are you getting? Is this job able to provide for your family, help you pay off your bills, allow you to put some in savings? Are you making progress, with your financial goals as a result of your work? Right. And again, score yourself from, let's say, a 1 to 9. Right. And then essentially what we do is I have these 9 zones. And what I want to do is I want to identify what zone you're currently in. So let me just run through this real quick with you. And I hope you can follow, our guys can follow, even though it's just, me talking about it. Yeah. So basically, if you have a low vitality and low value, right, you are in what we call the job zone.
And that would be, if you're looking at it, kind of that bottom left quadrant.
The bottom left quadrant, exactly. Gotcha. Okay. That bottom left quadrant, that's what we call the job zone, right? And the job zone is, I'm flipping burgers at McDonald's, right? No shade. It's not something I want to do the rest of my life. It's not paying me a lot. It's just getting me by, right? I don't enjoy it. It's not my calling. It's just the job zone, right? So that's the bottom left quadrant. The bottom right quadrant, you might say, well, you know what? I have a lot of value. I'm getting a lot of value from this enterprise, but it's not a lot of vitality, right? And so if you are high on the value, like, they're paying, my job is paying me well, but I'm just not enjoying it. Then I would say that you're in the bottom right quadrant, which would be career. Right. So for you, you say, hey, I'm Dr. Brad, yeah, I'm a doctor. They're paying me well, but I'm just not enjoying what I'm doing. Right.
Yeah,
So,
that's me for sure.
Yeah. So clearly you are in that career zone, right? Where you're getting paid well, but you're not really enjoying it. You could do this the rest of your life because obviously it's taking care of your financial obligations, but it's not if there's low vitality.
Yeah.
If you are in the top left quadrant, right, where there's high vitality, but this is what we call high vitality, but low value, right? That's what we call the hobby zone, right? So,
hey, man, hold up, Seth. I hope y'all, look, if you on a replay, man,
Yeah,
if you watching this right now, let me tell you, this is golden. I hope y'all taking notes. Oh, my goodness. And by the way, some of this, it's a wake up call for some people because it needs to happen. Sure. This is the mirror and the scale we was talking about for some people.
For sure. So, man, and listen, if I can say, man, I love playing golf. All right, I love playing golf. I get a lot of vitality when I go play golf, but I ain't getting paid to play golf.
No doubt.
Right? I ain't Tiger Woods. I ain't Roy McIlroy. Right? Listen, I'm not getting paid, so therefore it's just a hobby.
Right.
It's just a hobby. So now I'm in that top left. Right. Will if I'm doing something and there's high vitality and I'm experiencing high value from that thing, that will place me in the top right quadrant. And that's what we just simply call your vocation. Right. And your vocation is when you have found essentially your sweet spot where what you love to do is also paying you significantly and you're being rewarded monetarily to do it. Right. And that's essentially the quadrant where we want to say, okay, really this zone 9, if I were to number them, the bottom 3, 1, 2, 3, and then kind of 4, 5, I would label that top right quadrant zone 9. And I'll say that's ultimately where I want my people to be. However, before we get to zone 9 and before we identify what your zone 9 is, let's first see where you are. Right. Yeah. So if you're in zone 1, okay, right now we're in the job zone. So what's going to be our path from zone 1 to zone 9? It may not just be a direct kind of diagonal line. You might go over to a career, then you might go up to a hobby, and then you might go over to vocation. And so what this map allows us to do is to really create a pathway to get you towards where you feel you want to be, a place that you will experience high vitality and high value from what you're doing.
And that's a journey, man.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
and I think that's what people, and I guess part of what I need to say is getting clarity on what the 9 is a journey.
Yep.
Because for me, it wasn't overnight.
Yep.
I wish I would have had you, Seth. I mean, quite honestly, I wish I could have known. I could have used you about 5 years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, because I just didn't know what it was. And it was funny because I had an idea. I was like, I enjoy speaking. I enjoy pouring into people, and part of that was just kind of like a personal evaluation and inventory of what some of my gifts were and what I enjoyed. But to really get clarity on it, man, it took conversations. It took aha moments. It took being at a place that I had no idea how I got here, but being like, oh, wow, I just learned something here about myself that I need in order to try to help pour into somebody else. And even now, I wouldn't say that it's clearer than it's ever been, but I feel like there's always more clarity. There's always more learning. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
So I think one of the things that people need to understand is you got to be patient because you're a pastor. I'm a man of faith. God's going to give you that clarity when it's time.
Yeah. Yeah. The way I like to frame it is I like to borrow some words from Brene Brown. I'm sure you're familiar with Brene Brown, researcher and therapist. And she, has written tons of books. And something that she says, I don't even know if she coined this term, if it's hers original, but I was reading one of her books and she said that perspective is a function of experience. And when she said that to me, it really resonated with me, because I think in all of our lives, we're looking for clarity, but clarity is really nothing more than a different perspective, like how we view ourselves, how we view life, how we view our relationships to the world around us and others. And so that perspective that we're looking for is a function of experience. It comes with experience. I remember just recently, LeBron James did an interview right after the Lakers won. And I don't know if it was Rachel Nichols or one of the sports commentators asked him, how would you rate the 2020 LeBron James, who's been in the league 17 years, 34, 35 years old, however old he is. How would you rate that LeBron James's game versus the 2013 LeBron when he was in Miami and he won a championship? And he was like, this 2020 LeBron would sun the 2012 LeBron. Like even though the 2012 LeBron is like more athletic and probably better in shape and has better basketball skills, this 2020 LeBron would sun him. Right. Like, boy, let me put you on my hip and show you how to play the game.
Yes.
Right. And what he's essentially saying is like, I have so many more experiences that these experiences have given me a different perspective on the game. And this perspective is literally my competitive advantage, right? It's what makes me better than my old version of myself. And it's what makes me better than everyone else in the league, right?
Yeah.
And so when you think about your life, understand that your life is going to be progressive elaboration as you continue to journey and have new experiences. Your path and your understanding of who you are and where you're going, if you just stay faithful to the process and to the journey, it will become more and more and more clear with every day, with every week, with every month, and with every year. Right. And so you just have to endure the process. You have to endure the journey, man, and understand that gaining clarity around zone 9, what that looks like, it isn't an overnight, like you said. It's something that it comes about when you are engaged in community, you're engaged in relationships, you're engaged with coaching, you're engaged with therapy, you're engaged with self-awareness, and you are gaining a better understanding of this unique, dynamic individual that we call you, right?
Man, look, I pray y'all taking some notes today from a person who teaches clarity. It's hard to teach clarity if you don't have clarity. And from somebody like myself who's been through this arduous process of, starting to realize and coming to this conclusion, like you were saying, like sometimes the reason the clarity might be that I just haven't had the experience yet.
Yep.
But I got to keep going. And I can't accelerate experience. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I can accelerate some failures. And yes, I can go out there, try hard and stuff like that. Yes, but even still, man, if God says, man, the clarity I need you to have in this experience, if it hadn't happened, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. I love that. You can't accelerate experience because essentially it's not the activity, because it's almost like experience is a result of a learning that took place from an activity. Yep. Right. So I engage in activity. That activity might be going to school. That activity might be, getting a new job. That activity might be getting married. Like I've engaged in some type of activity, but because I have learned something from that activity, that learning then translates into an experience.
Yes.
If you don't learn anything from the activity, you're going to just keep falling on your head and keep repeating that same activity over and over and over again.
Right. And so for me, it wasn't that I wasn't being active. Yep. I was very active. I was doing the actions. I was doing things. Some people say, fail forward, fail faster. But sometimes there's a specific experience that is needed in order to hit that next level of clarity.
Yes.
And that only happens through the grace of God. You know what I'm saying? It's not that, if you're in sales, it's like, well, I just got to make some more calls or whatever the case may be. Yeah, sure. That might push the needle. But if you're talking about getting clarity on your calling and you doing actions out here, you just got to keep moving, because there'll be times when you weren't expecting to get some kind of aha moment and be like, oh my gosh, that's it. It didn't come at me overnight to say, you know what, man, I want to pour into men. Oh, no, specifically, I want to pour into high achieving men. Oh, what? Hold up. Wait, I think part of that wants to be purpose. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that happens, Seth.
Yeah.
Over years, man.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And you
Yep.
get these aha moments, and then you get in your phone and you be like, hold up. And then you get that note section on your phone where I got to put this down because I don't want to forget it.
Yep.
And then it becomes a framework with which the way you think, and then you can kind of start preaching, start teaching other people. Man, I'm telling you, this is high level stuff for people who are trying to get this so they can, because I truly believe, man, this is my thought. Just to be real with you, like one of the reasons why I target men is because I just feel like if men can get it right, if we can get it right, Seth, we can nothing against my ladies out there. By the way, Mia, you can join in. I'm glad you told Kevin to hop on, but listen, you are welcome to be part of the conversation.
For sure.
But for my fellas, man, massive change can happen. And I feel like we're so distracted. We're so we don't have direction. We don't have clarity. And because of that, even though we may appear successful, even though we may have some of the stuff, even though we may have some of the titles, we're not moving anywhere significant. And what's the difference between the guy who is never home because he's working so hard to try to get his name out there or whatever, and the family who doesn't have a dad?
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So we just got to start understanding, man, like so that's why I target it. So I want guys to understand this. And I believe every man wants to have purpose, man. I really do. I think every single man wants to have it. And sometimes, like you said, man, it's too hard out of our comfort zone to realize I'm not in my purpose. I'm not working in my purpose. So it's just easier to be like, well, let me just keep going to work.
Yep. And you wind up chasing the wrong rabbit, man. And you don't realize you're chasing the wrong rabbit till it's too late.
Yes.
You know, I was standing in line at Lowe's one day, brand new daddy, just had my first baby, was standing and I think I was even going to buy some paint to paint the baby's room, right? And I was standing in line at Lowe's, and the person in front of me was an older white man, and he, for whatever reason, he just started talking to me, and he was like, "You got any kids?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just had a baby." And he said something, man, that just kind of rested in my spirit. He said, "Man, listen, I got 3 kids, and they're all both grown." He's like, "Man, listen, prioritize your kids." He's like, "When I was coming through life, I did not take time for my kids. I spent all my time in corporate America working. And now I have a horrible relationship with them, and I can never get that back." Right. He's like, the thing that you want more than ever is have a tight relationship with your kids. So please, I mean, he was like begging me. He was like, "Yo, please take time." And what I took away from that is, make sure, Seth, that you are chasing the right rabbit.
Oof.
Right. Because all of us are chasing rabbits, right? We're chasing the financial rabbit. We're chasing the spiritual rabbit. Like all of us are pursuing something, and there's nothing wrong with that pursuit. I believe that God has called us to be creators. He's called us to be innovators. He's called us to bring things forth from the work of our hands, but just make sure that you're building the right thing, so that at the end of the days, when you look back, you realize, man, okay, what I actually built was worth building and will last for generations to come.
Look, fellas, for some of us, man, it's a wake-up call, man. And look, I'll be extremely transparent. I've been there before where, like, it was hard for me the reason I wrestled for a while was because I was like, dude, I'm a doctor. Like, I didn't want to face the fact that there was something else out there for me, but I was wrestling, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sitting here thinking like, well, like people like, dude, you're a doctor. Like, you know,
you've arrived,
right?
Yeah.
And so, but I'm wrestling, and then I just like let this. It was like just this huge weight off that I admitted, like, there's something else. Like just the simple fact of admitting. The reason why that was so hard for me, Seth, is because I'm thinking I spent all of this time, money, effort, energy, sacrifice to get here and realize, like, man, maybe this wasn't what I was supposed to do. I didn't have the clarity at the time to realize that it was part of my journey.
Sure, for sure.
Not that it was the wrong path, but that it was part of my journey. And thank God that He is a redemptive God. Even if it was a path that I wasn't supposed to take, He can still use it for my good.
Yeah, I think I love what you're saying, because and I want to encourage our people who are watching and listening, because some people will feel like, I've gone down a path, and now I'm realizing that it's the wrong path. Therefore, I should just abandon what I've done and start over. And what I would want to say to some people is like, for some of you all, yeah, you may need to abandon it for some, but not everyone needs to abandon it. Right. For some of you, I would want to work with you and kind of help you say, okay, so you're deep in zone 3. You're deep in your career. You're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a nurse, whatever, right? You're deep in your career, but you're realizing that you're still not experiencing high levels of vitality. You're not operating in your sweet spot. The next question I have is, how can we leverage your career to move you towards that sweet spot? Like, let's not abandon the fact that you're a doctor, right? Let's not cut our losses, right? How can we leverage that, right? So that you can function and move towards your sweet spot. Now, some of you all, you might realize, you know what? I was working with one person, and they, they're deep in as a nurse, and they're like, you know what? I need to abandon this. And we came to the conclusion, like, all right, we just need to hit the reset button. Like, this is not working for you. Let's hit the reset button and let's go different directions. For some of us, it is that drastic, but for others of us, it's not a total abandonment. It's more of a shift, a pivot. How can I leverage what I've experienced? And the way that I like to frame this from a theological perspective is when I look at the life of Joseph. Right here, you have this brother who had some major brokenness in his childhood. If you know the story, was it Genesis 30, somewhere around there? He had major brokenness, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, was working for Potiphar, and then Potiphar's wife lied on him, set him up with some sex scandal, got put in prison, was in prison, got forgotten about. So this brother has had many career changes, right? He's had many career changes, but in the end, what you understand about Joseph is it's almost as if God used every single one of those random, and I use the word career lightly, it was really traumatic experiences that he went through, right? That God used all of Joseph's experiences to prepare him for what God was calling him into, which was to be second in command in Egypt, to create an environment where his family could be saved from the famine. And so what I want you to do is understand that nothing you've experienced in life is, how can I say it? Like, let me say it in the positive. Everything that you've experienced in life has a purpose that will help you reach the goal that you are striving to reach, and that God ultimately wants you to reach. Like, nothing is useless. Everything, whether it's a relationship, a failed marriage, whether it was something that happened to you in your childhood, whether it was something that happened to your child, maybe unfortunately you've lost a child, right? Maybe it was something on your job, experiences that you had, hardships that you've gone through. All of it God uses. He has this masterful way of combining the good and the bad things of our life into this beautiful tapestry of a picture of where he is trying to take us. Right. So I just want to encourage someone, no matter where you are on your discovery journey, don't feel like you've wasted time. Don't feel like you've lost time. God has a way of redeeming time. Some of you may have to make a hard pivot. Others of you all, it might be a soft pivot, but nonetheless, no matter where you are, everything that you've gone through can be used and should be used to add continual clarity to where you are going.
That's good, man. That's good. And you shouldn't leave any of it out. It's all part of the recipe. It's all part of the recipe.
For sure.
Sometimes you gotta learn from my wife. Sometimes you gotta put a little salt into the dessert and make it a little better. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to put a little salt in there. And even though like salt might be bitter and stuff like that, it needs that in order for, so some of the salt that's happening in your life, I'm sure you're thinking like, ain't no way I'm going to use this to make something better. But it is, I want to circle back around to something, because you were in essence saying, well, look, okay, we've figured out where you are. We've kind of figured out you're in a certain quadrant. It sounds like what you were saying is kind of the next step is like, well, then how do we kind of map out how to start getting toward that place that you want to go? For some people, it's going to be a hard pivot. For some people, it's going to be a little softer pivot. I think one of the things that people need to understand is that there's ways to find help to figure out what the next best step is going to be. Oh yeah. It would be hard for me to sit here and tell someone to make that decision on your own. It's hard for you to see with you being in the, your own picture here. I mean, this is where the perspective of a coach, a mentor or somebody comes in, don't make these major life decisions on your own. What are your thoughts on that, Seth? I mean, this is
without a
what
doubt.
you do.
Yep. There's two things I think, and there may be three. There's two or three things that I think can help you gain perspective. Now, again, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for clarity. That's the goal. We want to be clear. We want perspective on our life. Where are we going? Right. What I like to say, what's our North Star? Yes. Right. Like, what's the North Star? What's our mountain peak? Right. You look up at the top of Mount Everest. Right. You're at the bottom of Mount Everest, and we want to identify what is your Mount Everest? What's the top of it? Right. Now, obviously, it's going to take some work. It's going to take some equipment, some training, some tools. It's going to take a guide to get to the top of Mount Everest.
Yes.
But if you follow the process, eventually you will get there, and hopefully you'll get there alive, and you'll be able to come back down alive. Right. And so along the way, you definitely need some type of whether it's coaching or intentional conversations with people, right? Intentional conversations where individuals can help come alongside of you and say, okay, let's begin to clarify, who are you exactly? What are you good at? The way that I like to look at it is one tool I use. It's just these three kind of like concentric circles or interlocking, overlapping circles, where one of it is, okay, what am I passionate about? Like, what fuels me? What gets me up in the morning?
This is good. Yep.
Right. What gets me up in the morning? What fuels me? What do I feel passionate about? Right. What is a burden that's resting upon me? A passion, the way I like to define passion, it's a desire, it's a burning desire that grows more intense over time and with trials, right? And so it's almost like I have this desire, this burden that over time it grows heavier and stronger, and it is actually intensified with trials, things that I go through. Like it is able to endure struggle.
Give me an example. Let's give him an example, Seth, because I have an idea of my own, but give him an example.
Yeah, for sure. So think about, and I'll use LeBron James, like just off the cuff, right? So I'll use LeBron James, right? So he's clearly, some would say, man, he's really passionate about basketball, right? Yeah. Like that's his thing. He's really passionate. And we know it's a passion because in his pursuit of basketball, he is willing to withstand pain. Right. So something is a passion if you are willing to withstand pain to engage in it. Right. Now, if you encounter pain, and when I talk about pain, I'm talking about, if I play basketball, like you want me to get up at what time and meet you at the court? 5 o'clock? All right. No, it ain't that deep, bro. Like it ain't that deep. Right? I'm not willing to endure the pain of getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's right.
Right. You want me to pay how much to hire a basketball coach? How much money? No, I'm good. It ain't that deep. Right. I'm not willing to endure the pain of hiring a basketball coach because it's going to be a financial pain on me. It's going to tax me. Right. And so, but something is a passion when you're willing to endure pain. It withstands the test of pain or the test of struggle. You're willing to struggle through it and still hold on to it because you are just so passionate about it. So go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's big, man, because people hear about passion. Like, I'm passionate about something, I'm so glad you're talking about this because I had another guest on the show who made this correlation between passion and pain.
Okay. Yep.
And how passion is not this thing that's just this, it's actually counter to some enjoyable thing.
Yep.
So it's why we call it the passion of Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Like he endured a pain. What are you willing to endure, pay a cost for, and endure pain? That really separates it for a lot of people and makes it aha. It ain't just because I enjoy Michael Jordan shoes. I want to turn it into a business.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Are you willing to suffer for them shoes? You willing to endure, go through some kind of pain? That's the separator.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. So we need to be clear on what am I passionate about, right? What am I willing to, what's a conviction that I have that is so deep, I'm willing to endure pain and struggle to hold on to this conviction. Once we get clarity around our passion, and let me just give your people this. One way of discovering what you're passionate about is by asking other people, right? Ask your family, ask your friends, hey, what do you think I'm passionate about, right? If you could describe my passions in 3 words, what 3 words would you use? right?
Yeah.
Well, man, you're passionate about your family. You're passionate about sports. You're passionate about the people around you will tell you. And what that feedback does is it just kind of begins to hopefully point you in the direction of what your passions possibly could be if you're having a hard time articulating them on your own.
Yeah.
Right? So don't hesitate to ask people. So once you understand your passions, the other thing that you want to understand are your abilities. What are you good at? Right? And abilities is big. What are you good at? Some of the things that I like to recommend people do is just taking some assessments, strength finders, right? Clifton Gallup strength finders, the DISC assessment, the Enneagram, right? These are some time-tested assessments that really help individuals discover who they are, their strengths, their gifts, their passions, right? And their abilities. So I would engage in some of those tools, right? It's going to cost you some money, but it's okay. It's worth it, right?
Yes.
Engage in some of those tools to figure out, okay, who exactly am I and what am I really good at, right? And again, you can also ask people, right? Ask the people around you. Hey, in fact, ask them this. If you have the courage, ask them this. What are the areas of my life that I think I'm good at, but I'm not really good at?
Ooh, and get ready. By the way, get ready.
Yes.
Put your big boy pants on whenever it's time to listen.
For sure. Right. I don't want to justify or rationalize or try to defend myself. When they're talking to you, just say, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. This is not about, let me defend myself. This is like, no, just put me in front of the mirror. What am I good at that I don't know I'm good at? And what am I not good at that I think I'm good at? Right. And so in engaging individuals in the ability conversation, again, it's all about pointing you towards here is what other people are saying and this feedback. Now, granted, it's other people's opinion. So it might not be the truth, but it's pointing you in the direction of truth.
See, all right. So let me jump in because everything that you're saying, I agree with. Here's where I'm at. I'm like, look, I'm impatient, Seth. So I don't want to and this is to try to help some other people who are on here thinking like, well, maybe who do I ask? Like, to me, to accelerate this process and to get some true clarity, just go see a coach, man. Just go to a coach.
Yep.
Go to somebody like myself, go to somebody like Seth. It don't even have to be me. It don't have to be Seth. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Find somebody.
Yeah.
Because if I go ask Uncle Joe, I appreciate you, Uncle Joe. But, I'm always thinking, consider the source where the information came from. The beautiful thing about a coach is that he don't owe you anything but truth.
Yeah.
So as he starts kind of like unraveling some things, we talk about the past or this and that, he can probably see some stuff. And yes, ask those people close to you, but like also consider who you asking. And to me, in terms of level of quality of information you'll get back feedback from, I feel like at the top is going to be a coach. After that, maybe it's going to be a mentor, depending on who the mentor is. And it goes down from there in terms of family and friends. But like to me, like that's going to be different for everybody, bro. Because let me tell you, man, I got some friends that would be like, what you asking? Man, come on, man. Like, whatever. But I feel like that would really move the needle for people and just have some more aha moments.
I mean, come on, let's just talk about it, right? Like, yes. And don't even use, if you don't like LeBron James, Michael Jordan, anybody, right? Every high performer has had a coach.
Let's be real, man.
Everyone. So if every high performer has had a coach, why don't you think you need a coach? Well, I ain't paying for nobody to tell me. Well, don't, but then don't get mad when you're not experiencing the success that you want to experience.
I'm done. Bye. I'm out. It's very simple.
Yeah, you're not winning any championships. Don't get mad because you're not winning any championships because you're not willing to pay a coach, right? Like every high performer has a coach. You need a coach. I have 2 coaches.
Amen.
Right? I got 2 coaches, right? And I probably need a third, right? I got 2 individuals in my life who I am paying, who are speaking into me.
Yes.
Right. And I got a wife and, she would coach too. And she's always speaking.
My wife is a coach without the title. I mean,
exactly.
Look,
that's what I'm talking about. So it's real, man. If you want to experience elite performance, if you want to experience clarity for your life, and you want to be able to figure out where you are and where you're going and how you're going to get there, and you want to expedite the process, I will say this, full transparency, you can go at it on your own. It's just going to take longer, right? It's just going to take longer. So if you want to expedite the process, right? And I'm not saying short circuit the process. I'm not saying make shortcuts, because there's really no shortcuts to purpose.
That's right.
When I say expedite, I'm talking about the discovery process. How can I expedite the discovery process? Then you're going to need someone who's going to be a guide. You can hike up Mount Everest by yourself,
yes,
or you can follow someone who's already been up there and they can show you the way.
It's so interesting. Look, I'm about to get real on here, because I was talking to another coach recently, and I was talking about how, dude, I love giving information. Like, this right here is golden. Like, and this is what I was talking about earlier whenever I first got on the show, is that sometimes people may not recognize the value. It doesn't mean that this information isn't valuable. They just may not see the value in it. But we were talking about coaching and, giving free information. I love giving free information, but I was telling people, it's kind of like, that's the information you can take, and I want people to go have transformation with that information. But that's going to be the equivalent of, if you're trying to get somewhere. I live in Dallas. We trying to go to Houston. You say, okay, well, I'm gonna walk, or I can go to the next level, maybe get a course. Well, now we're getting in a car. We're going a little faster because we bought a course. Or I'm about to fly to Houston, get there in 45 minutes to get a coach.
Yep.
So I want everybody to win. I believe you feel the same way, just feeling in your spirit. But it's going to be up to you to figure out how fast you want to go and what the cost is that you're willing to pay. Because for everybody, it's going to cost you something. For the person that's walking, now it's costing you time. Yep. And I don't know what you are willing to pay. I mean, you may not be willing to pay time. If that's the case, you might want to get in that car. Right? Sure. Depending on how much time you got or how impatient you are, you may want to get on that plane.
Yep.
So again, that's just a plug for, just if you want to accelerate stuff, get a coach. Yeah. But you were saying some things that guys need to do is they need to understand their passion, need to understand their abilities. What are some other?
The last piece I'll give you, man, is you need to understand the context in which you thrive. Right? What is the context? What's the environment? You put LeBron James on a golf course, he's not LeBron James. Right? You put Tiger Woods on a basketball court, he's no longer Tiger Woods. You put Tom Brady, on a baseball diamond, he's no longer Tom Brady. Right? Understand the context in which you thrive. What is who do you feel, using some spiritual terms, where do you feel God is calling you to? Like, what is your zone of genius? Like one author says, what is your zone of genius? What is the area that you feel like this is the group that God is calling me to, where my greatest contribution can be made? For some of you all, it may be in corporate America. Some of it may be nonprofit. Some of it may be an entrepreneur one-on-one, working with teachers. Like I have a friend, Jeremy Anderson, and he is killing the game working with teachers and students, right? I have other friends who are in corporate America, and they're killing the game working with, corporate clients, like Pierre Quinn, working with corporate clients, right? And so a lot of it determines, like, okay, what is the context that God is calling me to? For me, God is very clearly calling me to that nonprofit faith-based community. Right. So I was like, man, this is my zone of genius. This is where I thrive. This is where I feel my passions and abilities come to life, when I'm working with faith leaders and nonprofits in the community who are really trying to make a difference in the community on the grassroots level. Yeah. Right. And so what I want our people to understand is, what's your zone of genius? What is the place where you actually thrive? This the environment where you feel your greatest, your contribution will be the greatest, right? If you put Tiger Woods on the basketball court, I mean, he could probably give you 5 fouls, but that's not going to be his greatest contribution.
Right.
His greatest contribution is when you're going to put a golf club in his hand and put him in front of a little white ball, right?
That's right.
And so what environment do you thrive in, and where when you speak, people listen? right? I want you to be in a place that when you speak, people listen, right? When I speak to faith leaders and nonprofits and executive leaders, they listen. But if you take and you put me in front of certain crowds, right, Dr. Brad, because you are a doctor, because you have that credential and that licensing and that experience, if I put you in front of another group of doctors, they're probably going to be more inclined to listen to you, right? Just because of who you are and the gifts and the credentials that God has given you.
That's right.
No shade to those people who don't have that. It's just, this is what God has gifted me. This is what I'm good at. Right. So I can speak to this crowd. And so that's the last piece I want people to understand is what are my passions? What are my abilities? And then what is the context? The context where I feel my greatest contribution can be made.
Why do you feel like some people are being called and they resist it?
Oh, for sure. You know, and real quick, I'll just tell you the reason why I think people resist, and let me just think for myself. The reason why I have resisted is because the calling requires courage.
Yeah, man.
Right? Moses, go set my people free, right? It requires courage, right? The secular world calls it courage. The faith community calls it faith, right? It requires courage. It requires you believing something about yourself that up until this point may not have been true.
Yeah.
Right. And so when God places a call, or when you discover like, okay, man, this is really who I am, it requires you having the courage to take this step out there and say, you know what, I'm going to walk confidently in my calling, in my purpose. Right. There's a great book. It is called, I want to look it up right now because I want to make sure I get a title. It is called Big Leap. Big Leap. If any of you all have heard it, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And essentially in this book, he describes so accurately what it requires for you to kind of take the leap from a small fish bowl to a big fish bowl. Right. And a lot of us,
it's got that fish. It's got that fish on the front cover. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yep. And when I started reading the book, I was like, yes, finally a book that's going to teach me how to scale my business and how to get more employees and how to make more money. Nah, brother. This book is all about how to scale your mind, how to scale, and how we have this regulator on our mind that's preventing us from taking the leap. And that regulator, to overcome it, it requires courage, requires faith, it requires stepping out there, you know, kind of like that Indiana Jones. Which one was it? Where he stepped out there on the bridge. He couldn't see nothing, right? He stepped out there on the bridge by faith, and the bridge was there. And so that's why, man, I think a lot of people resist it, because for them, number one, they can't see it. Right? They feel it, but they can't see it.
Yeah, man.
And because they can't see it, they're afraid to take that step.
Yeah, man.
Right? And that's why a coach is so important, because a coach can help you see it.
Yes.
Like I can come to you, Dr. Brad, if you're my coach, I'm like, man, Dr. Brad, I just feel like I feel like I need to be doing this or that, and I'm just not sure. And what you will do is you will walk me to help me see very clearly what that looks like. And now that I see it, I'm like, oh, okay. Now that I can see it, I can achieve it. It's attainable. It's
the clarity and it's the encouragement to say, hey, man, now that we see, I'm here with you. I'm here to walk with you. Let's go. Like, I got you. Yep. You know, yeah, man, it's scary, man. I'll be honest. It is very scary to go out because you can't see it. It's a walk of faith. You're sometimes moving that foot before you even see that next. Like, I hope there's a step there. As you keep going, and you just have to trust. I got one last question for you, because I could do this all night. Do you feel that in order for somebody, do you feel like a requirement in order for somebody to get clarity on their calling requires a certain relationship with God?
That's a good question. I think that if you want to fully understand and live up to who you are and who you were created to be, that understanding comes within the context of relationship. Right? Don't get me wrong. I don't want to suggest that you need God to be successful. Like, you can go out there and make six figures. You can go out there. There's a lot of people out there who are doing great things And I'm not talking about selfish capitalist six figures. I'm talking about like, no, there's good people out there who have good hearts. They're doing philanthropy. They're giving back to the community. They're doing great things, and they're atheists, or what we would call unbelievers. Like they're just good people, right? So I don't want to pigeonhole someone to say, well, unless you know God, you will never. Right. But what I do want to just stress is that knowing God makes it better. Right. Knowing God makes it, you understand. And that's why my passion is about leading leaders to discover their kingdom contribution. Yes. Right? Because it's not just a contribution to this world, because from a biblical worldview, we know that this world is not all that there is. Right. So how is what I'm doing right now going to translate into the afterlife? How is it going to translate into the eternal? Right. And it doesn't mean you have to be a pastor. It doesn't mean you have to be a preacher, right? For sure. But you recognize that this is what God has called me to do. This is how I uplift humanity and push people closer into forming into the image of God. Like I want to restore the image of God in people. And I can do that through, coming alongside of them, helping them, encouraging them through really discovering what my calling is. And that calling, I mean, you might feel like, man, my gift is in tech. I like tech. I have a buddy of mine. And he started a company called Carrington Case. And essentially what he does, he makes cases. He's Christian, he's a believer, but he's like, man, for every case that we sell, we donate a portion of our proceeds to helping kids, to learn code, to investing in the community. Like this is a God initiative, and we're just leveraging technology to move this God initiative forward, right? And so I don't want you to think you have to be a preacher behind a pulpit. That's right. And that's the essence of calling. Right. Yes. The essence of calling is recognizing that even if I'm making cases for phones, or if I'm, even just punching the clock at McDonald's, as I'm moving into my calling, it is because I'm trying to leverage my calling for something greater than myself.
That's right. And I'm glad you addressed this, man, because it was a question that I've had before, only because I got more clarity the closer the relationship I got to God. And I started wondering, like, is it a requirement? And I don't think it is, but I think it can be one of those accelerators. I think it can really help you understand that your calling is rooted in service. And much like this person who's making cases, he can serve like Jesus in what he does. Yep. It's not that I have to browbeat you on the head with the Bible in order to be like Jesus. I just simply have to be like, hey, how can I put you in front of me? How can I be selfless in this relationship and be called to serve you? It may not be that I have to give you some scripture right now. It may be just that, hey, man, with these gifts and talents, I'm going to serve you with the way that I make these phone cases, with the way that I write this code. And I want to pay that forward to other kids who may want to do the exact same thing. I love it.
But let me tell you real quick. I work with a company in Chattanooga, and they're a cloud storage company. Yeah. Right. And so they just have tons and tons of, I don't even know what you call them, the cloud storage.
Right. Lord knows I don't know.
Yeah. So that when you put your stuff in the cloud, like they're managing the cloud. When you walk into their main facility, on their wall, they have like their mission, which is like advancing the kingdom of God by storing your data. Like they're understanding, like, yeah, we're not preaching the gospel here. We're storing data. Right. Yeah. But we're leveraging the data and the revenue we generate from storing your data to advance the kingdom of God, right? And then underneath their mission, they had a picture they had a picture of a map of the world, and they had like several tacks on the map, and each one of those tacks represented an orphanage that company had started from their revenue. And so they're saying, hey, the money that we make, a portion of it goes to start orphanages around the world to help kids who are in, less than ideal situations, right? To me, I think that's what it's about.
Yeah, and man.
You can't get there outside a relationship with God.
Yeah, man. And like you said, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to pass, so you don't have to do this stuff. It is how you live your life. If it is one of, I'm here to be like Jesus. Yep. By the way, he was pretty cool. He was pretty successful. He was pretty significant and had a massive impact, which is part of what we're talking about here. Hey, Seth, where can they find you, man? You do great work. I want people to have access to you to know where they can find you. I put it up here, but go ahead.
Yeah, visionclarity360.com. That's my website. I'm on social media, YouTube, have a YouTube channel where I drop some content as well. And, if I can serve you in any capacity, even just with a clarity call, a free consultation to kind of help you figure out where you are and where you need to go, I'll be more than honored to serve you as you are striving to, gain clarity for your life. And so, yeah, just jump over to Vision Clarity 360 and let's wrap. Let's get in touch with each other.
Hey, man, I'm grateful, man. Thank you.
Sure.
Sign me up for your kingdom movement, bro. Sign me up. I'm going to be right there, doing whatever I can do to help further your mission. I firmly believe in, as I'm sure you do, that as the body, man, we gotta work with each other.
Yeah.
And for somebody who's mission focused as yourself, blessing other people. Yeah, man, I'm excited. So I appreciate you being on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Any last comments before we hop off? And guys, listen, if you guys have questions, just put them in the comments. We'll figure out how to make this happen. Vaughn, yeah, I know you were looking forward to this. You were telling me earlier today you were looking to get some clarity. So, but yeah, any closing thoughts?
Man, listen, I just really believe the best for you. If you're watching, you're listening right now, I believe the best for you. I believe that no matter where you are, what you've experienced, no matter what hardships or difficulty you might be going through right now, let me just get a moment just to speak over you. I really believe that God can use all of it to bring about some great things in your life. And it might not look like it right now, but God is a master chef. He gets into the kitchen of your life and he has the ability to make a full course meal out of literally nothing. Right. You just surrender your heart to him and just say, God, lead me, guide me, show me where you'd have me to go. And he will place you in his process and it will be beautiful. I love the text where it says he makes all things beautiful in his time. Right. And so he is the operative acting agent. He makes, and then time is what's required. Right. So place yourself in his hands. He will make all things beautiful in his time. And so just let him make you, for sure.
I received that. I don't know if y'all received that. Y'all better receive that. No, that's real. You guys, I appreciate you guys hopping on again. This is one that, listen, man, you got to share this. You've got to tell somebody else about this. There's too much value. We're talking about value on here. There's too much service that was put on here. There's too much heart. There's too much of us wanting to help other people for this not to be shared with somebody else. Simply bless somebody else. Tell them about it. Direct them here. Share it so that somebody else can be blessed with this information. Seth, hang on. Obviously, you and I are going to talk here in just a little bit as we hop off. But for all of you who are here, man, we appreciate it. Again, we'll be back next week, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on another episode of Elite Performance with Dr. Brad. You guys have a blessed week.
Bye.